Yo, what's up? In this video, I want to share with you what URL parameters in Bubble.io are, why you need to use them, and what happens if you don't use them. And spoiler alert, you actually might not be able to build your app. But before we dive into it, I want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Mark, and I run a Bubble.io agency, and we build apps for other people. For example, we've built this app, which is a e-learning platform. We built this app, which is an investment platform, all built via no code on Bubble. And so I deal with URL parameters every single day, and I think I'm somewhat qualified to make this tutorial. Having said that, let's jump right in. So first of all, let's start with this page that I have prepared for this tutorial. It's a very simple page. We've got two buttons, button 1 and button 2. When I click on button 2, this number becomes a 2, and this button becomes highlighted. And when I click on button number 1, this number becomes 1, and it's highlighted. The reason I'm showing you this is because we somehow need to store this number on this page. And the way we are currently doing it, which is a totally valid way for this use case, is by having a group number here, which stores a number, which is either, by default, it's 1, or it can be 2, in which case this group is going to get highlighted. And when one of these groups is getting clicked, we can see the workflow in our workflow editor. In that case, for example, if I click on the first one, it's number 1, and if I click on the second one, the group becomes number 2, which is exactly what you see over here. So what we are doing, basically, essentially, that's a variable that we are changing. And it works fine without URL parameters. But there are certain limitations of when this cannot work fine. For example, let me now reload the page. And you see the number changed to 1. But what if I want the page to remember my state, so my variable, when I click on reload? This is not possible. This is just simply not possible with variables as I have built it right now. Or also, imagine if I'm getting on this page from another page and I want this to be 2. And this is also not possible with local variables the way it is done right now. And you might be asking, well, why would I even need something like this? And the answer is actually simple. For example, if I go onto this page, which is a simple dashboard that I have built in the previous tutorial, here, if I click on send, like I choose, there are tabs that I can select, right? And if I am on this tab and I refresh the page, it's much more intuitive for the user for the page to stay the same. In which case here it actually does, because we have used URL parameters. Or imagine I'm doing some sort of complex survey and then I'm coming onto the next page and we want to save the state of the questions that I have answered in the survey on the page. So the way to do it is with URL parameters. There is no other way. So let me quickly run you through what those are and how those work. To do that, we are going to go onto Google, just simple Google page. And actually, let me do some sort of, let's search for any website. Actually, let's go onto my company's website, which is right here. Let me go into the homepage. And you see right now the URL is like this. So URL parameters are parameters that you hang onto your URL. In this case, I can hang something such as tab equals name. Nothing changes, but I'm showing you how to put the URL parameter. To put them, you use a question mark, then you put the parameter name, then you put equal, and then you put what should be in the parameter. If you want to hang multiple parameters, you just connect them with this sign. So first is always the question mark after the complete link, and then this sign, and you can say, I don't know, parameter u is equal to w, whatever, right? However, in this case, nothing changes. The reason is URL parameters are there. They do not influence how your page loads, but if your browser or if the application that you've got on the page explicitly asks for these parameters, then and only then do they act. As in, for example, in this dashboard page that I have shown you before, let me turn the debug mode off so that you can clearly see it, because so here you see that current tab is send. If I click over here, the tab will become home, and if I click here, the tab will become download. And in this case, the parameters are actually right, because if now I simply reload the page by saying the send, you will see that we are on the send page. So now, all we have left to do is for me to show you how to make this example work with URL parameters in Bubble.io. Let me close all of those. Okay, so right now, the first thing is we have to understand which URL parameter we are going to be using to display this. Let's say in this case, we are going to use parameter number. So when I click this button, what do we want to do? Instead of us displaying data in the group, we'll delete that. What we want to have is we want to navigate, go to page. We're actually going to stay on the same page, so current page. And here we have this with this checkbox that we need to check, send more parameters. In this case, we want to send number. And in this case, we want to do 1. Just 1. Now we can copy this. We can copy this and paste this for the second one, for the second button. In this case, it should be 2. There we go. So now, if we go onto this page and I click onto here, and I first of all also disable debugger mode so you can see clearly the URL. I click on here, you see that URL, so the page URL, the parameter is number and 1, and if I click here, it changes to number 2. But now you see that if I click here, nothing changes. That is because we still have to make the page work with these parameters. And the way I really prefer to do this is to only read parameters 1. So in this case, we have this group number, and rather than this just being a static variable, what we're actually going to do is we are going to do get data from page URL, which is the action to read them. Parameter name is going to be number, because that's the parameter we're setting. The type of it is number in our case. And there we go. Now, this group is going to read that. And because of that, actually, you see that the highlight is working group numbers number, and the group numbers number is the number from page URL. So the entire page is going to start working just by me changing this. Let me try that. So let's reload. And there we go. Number 2, you see number 2 is highlighted, and we see number 2 over here. So you see this works. And if you refresh the page, it stays on the same thing. Another final thing that we need to do and we take care of is what happens if you just go on this page now without any parameter. You see nothing happens, nothing's highlighted because the parameter is empty, so this group is going to be empty. In this case, if we don't want this to happen, we can simply add a rule that when page is loaded, here we would add we go to page, basically the same exact page, send more parameters. We are going to send parameter number, we are going to send number 1. But we only do this if get data from page parameter, so the parameter will be number, and this doesn't actually matter whether it's text or not, is empty. So if the parameter is empty, we're going to set it to the default option, which is number 1. Let's try this again. And now if I reload, we see our first option gets selected. This is essentially everything there is to know about parameters in Babel.io. So in conclusion, your parameters are basically like variables that can be visible over here and that the page can read from there. One thing to be careful about is that when you set the parameters, always remember the user has access to this. So if there is something on the page that you do not want the user to be able to modify, you should probably avoid using URL parameters. Having said that, that concludes my video. And if you need help with your Babel.io application, there is a link below where you can reach out to me and I will help you out. See you in the next video.